Welcome to this Monday edition of the Chiefs, and we are on the way to Friday. And of course,
Wow, a long, long way ahead.
yeah,
Let me burst your bubble at the
half
top of the
empty, half
week.
full lang naman yan eh. And of course, with us is Lucy Cruz Valdez, the head of News 5. And
I,
coming online in a few minutes will be Amin Pamintuan of the Philippine Star and Robbie Alampay of One News. Well, Robbie Alampay had the newscast and Ami siguro sinasara pa yung kanyang pahina, yung kanyang front page ng Philippine Star, of which he is the editor-in-chief. Boss Lucy, ano yung top story natin tonight?
Bagyo. Sa
Bagyo.
Quinta.
Yan, palabas na naman eh. Yan.
Oo. Hindi, pero grabe yung binuhos na ulan. Di ba? Talagang baha. Baha sa Albay, sa Quezon, Cagayan. Di ba?
May video si Camille
Batangas.
Samonte. Report natin si Camille Samonte. May video siya ng isang lalaki sa palayan na hanggang
Yeah.
leeg
Yes.
na noon, tubig.
Oo,
Sa
grabe.
Quezon.
Yeah. Tsaka parang wala parang nabigla tayong lahat no na ganito pala kalakas yung buhos na dadalhin ni Quinta. Nagulat na lang tayo yesterday, Sunday, biglang sinususpindi ng mga klase, no? At saka, well, yung mga local, anong tawag doon, disaster, DRRMC.
Yeah.
Oo.
Although some people are
Kanya-kanya,
asking bakit suspended ng classes kung online naman yung classes.
Yeah. Hindi, kasi marami nagba-brown out eh. Tapos nahuhuli sila,
Pero hindi
nasisira.
lang yun. I suppose hindi lang kasi napaliwanag ng maigi and sana napaliwanag ng maigi para natin ng mga tao. The teachers go to school.
Yes, that's right.
And sila yung kawawa kung hindi suspend ng klase eh.
I don't think that all of them go to school, but I guess to equalize, tsaka parang may uniformity rin ng schedule, 'di ba? Tsaka mahirap eh, kasi paano kung yung iba offline or walang internet, yung iba meron, so maiiwan naman yung mga iba. So I think it was a good idea to just allow the same rules to apply, even if it's online or blended learning now.
Yeah.
Okay
It could
naman.
have been better explained lang kasi
Yeah.
some people were maraming pilosopo eh. And rightly so, people would ask naman talaga na teka, online yung mga klase, bakit if they're from home, bakit suspended?
Yeah.
Napaliwanag na sana na maigi yan eh. Sayang eh.
Yes. Yeah. Pero it stands to reason, no? After
Yeah.
they explained it. Yeah.
Mhm.
It stands to reason.
But actually,
Of course,
it's more of guesswork. I'm
guesswork
just
kung
guessing that's the reason.
kung bakit.
Yeah, I'm just guessing that's the reason, the teachers.
Hindi. Ito in-explain nila. Ang
Okay.
daming araw nagba-brown out, tapos nawawala ng internet, tapos yung mga walang signal, lumalabas, umuulan. So, paano nga naman lalabas, di ba? Alam mo yung mga ganong sitwasyon. So, naisip nila na, sige na, kanya-kanyang call na yung LGU, depende sa sitwasyon.
Mhm.
Pero yung isang malaking storya ngayon, Miss Universe. Babaw, ano? Pero naging controversial.
Malaking segment ng populasyon nakaantabay dyan. Hindi lang ako kasama doon. Hindi ko nga alam na may Miss Universe.
Nakakatawa lang
Nakita
kasi
ko lang kanina.
parang naging controversial pati yung sagot niya. Parang iisip ko nga, what's so controversial about that? Why do you ask a question and then bash the person for answering? Anyway.
Sige, hanapin ko nga mamaya.
Wala. It's a ano ka ba? It's a beauty pageant obsessed population, I'm afraid. It still is.
There you go. Oh, there's
I
Robbie
hate to
Alampay
say
of
it,
Robbie Alampay of One News. Robbie, sino yung bet mo dun sa Miss Universe?
Nanalo na eh.
Ah.
Ano ba? Nanalo na siya. Tapos ang tanong sa kanya, kung meron daw bang somebody that she feels deserves to be on the face of a peso bill. Kung may bagong peso bill.
Yung ba yung Miriam Santiago?
Yes.
Ay, okay.
Ilongga siya.
May alam ako ng konti. Nabasa ko pala.
Parang hindi ko lang maintindihan. What's so wrong about that? Parang pati ba naman yung binabash? I think social media is really made for bashers, no?
It's easy to just jump on any topic and pontificate. Si Robbie tuloy umalis kasi tinanong natin si Miss Universe. Well, apparently Robbie lost connection again. I think he's reporting from the office, Reliance City, Mandaluyong. There you go, Robbie.
Pasensya na, sorry.
Baka dyan
Sorry.
May baka pa dyan?
Pasensya na. false positive, false positive. Eto na. Andito na.
Okay.
Okay, well, siguro let's bring in our guest already kasi
Yeah.
we might be running late already if we don't bring him in yet. Actually,
Mm.
we're running a bit late already kasi we were expecting to have him on Friday, pero there was I understand the power outage in Lucena City where he is based. We're of course talking about Lieutenant General Antonio Parlade Jr., the spokesman of the NTF-LCAC, and also the commander of the AFP's Southern Luzon Command. Good evening, General, and welcome
Good evening,
to the Chiefs.
General.
Good evening, June.
Good evening po.
Sorry. Yeah, Toby.
Lucci
And
po.
sir,
Lucci, yeah, sorry.
sir, medyo madilim kayo. Medyo madilim kayo. Brown out pa ba?
Nagtatago. Yes, nagtatago ako sa mga bashers ko.
Well, kayo naman talaga sir. Well, sir, teka.
Actually, nag-inspect ako ng yung effect nitong disaster, yung bagyo na to.
Yeah,
Kaya I'm on
area
my
niyo
way
yung tinamaan eh.
to camp. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
sir. Well, we also want to go into that later. Pero sir, let me start off with something that happened this morning. This morning, you gave an interview where, again, you labeled the members of the Makabayan Bloc, the 6 members, as card-bearing members of the Communist Party. Well, it's nothing really new coming from the NTF-LCAC and its members. Pero sasakan ko yung narrative na yun na what proof do we have that they are card-bearing members? Kasi that has never been answered sufficiently. And secondly, even if they were card-bearing members, what law does that violate?
Okay. First of all, let me start with this issuance of the Presidential Proclamation 374, 2017, inisyu ni Presidente Duterte, declaring the Communist Party of the Philippines, NPA, as a terrorist organization. Diba tinigil niya yung peace talks
Yes, sir.
with the CVP-NPA dahil dun sa mga atrocities na ginagawa nila. So, essentially, binigyan niya ng naging mandate, naging task ito ng ating armed forces para i-monitor itong grupo na ito. At yun na nga, sa ating deliberate at pag-assess nitong grupo na ito, napakadaming circumstantial evidence and of course testimony ng ating mga cadre, mga former rebels na nakikipagtulungan na sa atin sa ngayon, identifying all members, in fact all officials and party list nominees as a card-bearing member ng Communist Party of the Philippines. Hindi ka kasi pwedeng ma-nominate as a candidate ng ng Kamatayan Black. Natawag ko dyan, Kamatayan Black Makabayan Black na ito, kung hindi ka party or card-bearing member ng CPP. So yes, ebidensya, marami tayong ebidensya. But the issue, I guess, is legal ba yung CPP? Sabi ng batas na repeal yung anti-subversion law, legal na ang Communist Party of the Philippines. The thing is, since 1995, nung nagkaroon tayo ng party list, supposed to be nandun sila sa parliamentary struggle, doon na lang sila sa kongreso nagkikipagtunggalian. Hindi nila binitawan yung armed struggle. At napakalinaw yan sa mga plano nila sa Constitution Plans and Programs ng CPP at saka 5-year plan and program itong CPP. Kaya continuous yung ating pag-monitor sa kanila, especially now na meron na tayong batas itong anti-terror law.
Pero sir, that is still not a violation of the law kasi even the presidential declaration is not a prescription as provided for under the anti-terror law. That still requires a ruling by the Court of Appeals. So at this point,
yes.
even if they are members of the CPP, which is an assumption, that's not a violation of the law.
Exactly. That's why we want to make sure that when we file cases against these people, we have strong evidence. And that's what we're doing now. Your government is trying to consolidate all these pieces of evidence we have so that when that prescription comes, ready tayo to file case. Of course, hindi naman retroactive yung batas. So those acts that they have committed, criminal acts they have committed in the past, may not apply in this anti-terror law. But we have to establish that probable cause that because of their involvement in the past, most likely, chances are, they still continue providing support. Napakalinaw yun, yung mga provisions na yan, providing material support, which could be tangible and intangible support to a terrorist organization, recruiting members for this terrorist organization, being a member of the terrorist organization, and meron din mga preparatory acts, including planning, involvement in planning, in training, and many other yes, violations na pwede kang maging liable. In the past, hindi natin to pinapansin. Kaya nga nakikita natin, parang normal lang yung nagbibigay ng support dito sa mga organisasyon na ito. But this time, itong batas na ito, napakalinaw na providing all this support to this terrorist organization, provided that you have knowledge that this is a terrorist organization, makes you liable. So we have to anticipate all these things. But what we're doing now is discuss these issues, and this is good kasi mas maganda yun na ma-warningan na natin itong mga taong na-involved dito habang hindi pa fully in effect itong batas. I mean, it's in effect. Essentially, the law is in effect. But ang gusto natin, pagka full blast na tayo dito sa implementation ng batas na ito, recently lang lumabas yung IRR, ay at least na-isolate na natin yung mga taong hindi naman dapat kasuhan.
General,
talaga natin silang i-isolate at iwanan nila itong armadong pakikibaka na ito.
General, malinaw po yung objectives nyo dito. You've been very transparent about this. Sinabi nyo nga po na on the one hand, ito po huling sinabi nyo, you want to isolate these people. You're monitoring them, as you said. This is all in the context of the anti-terror law, as you said. Nandyan na yan. You're raring to go with that law. But I'm wondering also if the intent is to build up your case. Naniniwala kayo, may rason talaga kayo. If your intent is to build up a solid case, then why all of this publicity? Why do this all out in the open? Because a skeptical mind will say, mukhang di nyo kaya mag-build ng kaso. Mukhang you have nothing. It's all words and therefore it is all innuendo.
Okay. Do you recall the NTF-ELCAC filing case against Gabriela and ACT before election? Those cases that we filed in COMELEC was for the disqualification of these two party lists. For what? For their involvement in terrorist activities, that's one. Second, for receiving foreign funding, which is not allowed. So, doon muna natin sinimulan ito. But in the course of building that case dito sa COMELEC for the disqualification of this party list, ang dami na naming naungkat, ang dami na naming nabuo na ebidensya para ipursu ang iba pang kaso na pwedeng ikaso sa kanila. But going back to your question, building up, mahabang mahabang proseso ito, and of course we have to make sure that this will stand in court. Ang maganda nga dito sa batas na ito ay binibigyan ng pagkakataon ang ating gobyerno para talagang magkaroon ka ng solid na kaso. For instance, this time it allows surveillance as against in the Human Security Act of 2007. Bago ka mag-conduct ng surveillance, magpapaalam ka sa mga taong ito. At least dito sa batas na ito, hindi mo na kinakailangan magpaalam. Sasabihan mo lang yung courts that we have established probable cause that these guys are involved in terrorism or members of this terrorist organization. So you ask the court if they can issue clearance to conduct surveillance. So now, mas madali na ngayon na gawin ng gobyerno ang kanilang trabaho para lalong maganda at solid ang mga kasong i-file natin sa kanila.
But General, if you don't mind, balikan ko lang po yung punto nyo. Doesn't that precisely go to the point of my question? You talk about the petition, for example, to stand against Gabriela. No? Right now, everybody knows what Gabriela is. Gabriela has a representative. It is a party list. It is represented as Congress. It is not only legal. It is completely part of the institution. And more to the point, the reason they're there is precisely because COMELEC junked the petition to disqualify the Makabayan bloc. And that's precisely that precisely goes to our question. why all of this innuendo in public and this communist and red tagging when you're trying to say, on the one hand, we're trying to build a solid case, we're gathering all the evidence so you know na lahat ng sinasabi namin totoo. But you failed to do that before. You failed to stand against the Makabayan bloc. And precisely, they are now part of the institution. So people, again, I'll repeat my question. People now get the perception na precisely the reason you're waging this out in public and in media is probably because right now, even with the anti-terror law, you're not standing on anything. I get your point that we want to collect everything and you want to use everything that is in power, that's within your power, under the anti-terror law to have more opportunity to build your cases. But doesn't that go against precisely your actions and your behavior in the past weeks, where everything you've been saying is without evidence at this point?
Robbie, uh, do we really want all these members of Gabriela, for instance, lumabas na yung proscription? Do we really want all these members of Gabriela Youth, for instance, to be in jail? Do we really want all these members, for instance, of Alliance of Concerned Teachers, 114,000 of them, to be in jail? Do we want all these members of the Kamatayan Bloc to be in jail? I don't think so. Why? Kasi marami sa kanila, many of these members are actually victims themselves. And this is what we're trying to do. We are trying to explain the revolutionary dual tactics of these legal organizations with this underground illegal organization running it. So yun ang explain natin that, for instance, in Gabriela Youth, there's this Makibaka. This is the underground organization
Gabriela.
composed of CPP, yes, as a Gabriela Youth, under or running the Gabriela Youth, the organization. But it doesn't mean, as a member of Gabriela Youth, it doesn't mean that you are part of that terrorist organization. But many of these Gabriela members are actually victims because they don't understand kung ano itong nature nitong organization na ito. What they know is that this is just an aggregation of women who are trying to fight the rights of women. Alam mo na, ang daming mga naabuso ng mga kababayan. So, dapat lang na suportahan natin yung ganitong mga advocacy. But what they don't know, these members don't know, is that there's a very thin line dividing the legitimate activities or the legal na activity, that's according to their document, and the illegal na activity nitong mga grupong ito. And that is the reason why we find so many members of this Gabriela Youth being killed in encounters with the government. Marami na akong pinangilanan. Sina Joe Lapira, ito sina Ren Manalo, ito sina Alex Pacalda, buti si Alex Pacalda, Bukay. They're all members of Gabriela Youth. They're supposed to be activists, but why are they wielding arms? Because they didn't know what happened to them, and suddenly they're there in the mountains fighting the government. Naging terrorista na sila. So this is the thing. We'd like to educate our people that there's this duplicity of these organizations. Sa front, yan ang advocacy nila, maganda. But ang pinaka-objective dito really is to pursue their national democratic revolution, this armed revolution. So yun lang ang gusto naming i-emphasize that yes, they are legal organizations, but we should be very, very careful kasi dadalhin tayo dito sa armadong pakikibaka na ito, and all of these organizations are consistent with that
So in
agenda.
short,
Because-
General, red tag nyo na nga sila. Yung grupo
No.
is already red
No.
tag. What do you mean? But you've just said, diba?
We did not. Yeah. We did not red tag them. Remember, it's Jose Maria Sison who proclaimed them as progressive allies. Pinangalanan niya itong mga organization na ito, si Jose Maria Sison mismo. At sino pa? Yung mga cadre mismo ng Communist Party of the Philippines na ngayon
Well, yun na
ikatulong
nga.
na natin.
So you've
Yes.
taken that as fact, that Joma himself admitted that they're red. that they're part of the
Yes.
organization.
And they keep on
So
denying
they
it.
are, yes. So
Pero,
you're
General, I
tagging
saw
them
the
as red. So ang
General, I watched
question
that
is,
clip. General, I watched that clip of Joma Season kasi it's been posted by many people who specifically want to point this out.
yes,
What he
yes.
said was this, and I quote: "Even while there are forces of armed revolution, there are the legal democratic forces in the Philippines. The biggest of these is Bayan with 2 million members and so on and so forth." Yun lang sinabi niya. He did not say in any way. He did not say that they belong to the Communist Party of the Philippines or to the New People's Army. He just said that while there are forces of armed revolution, there are the legal democratic forces in the Philippines.
Yeah, that's what the video says. But the document says all. Nandun yung sinasabi nilang legal, malalegal, and then illegal na organization. You read the 5-year program of the Communist Party of the Philippines, 2016 up to 2019. 3-year program yan na naging 5-year program nila. At nandun, i-explain nila, encouraging members of the legal organization, the Progressive Bloc, to join the illegal organizations, which is the armed component. Because according to that document, they're already losing fighters, and they need to move their members from the legal front to the underground. So napakalinaw yun doon.
So
And,
you're saying, General, you're saying meron kayong ebidensya to link Gabriela with the armed component of the communist movement.
oh yes,
That's what you're saying.
Oh,
You
yes.
have evidence. Kasi sinabi na naman ngayon kanina ng Malacanang, inulit na naman nila, and they said, sinabi ni Presidente kay Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, kung walang ebidensya, you have to keep quiet, and if you want to conduct surveillance, you do it quietly. So since you're speaking to us about it, siguro ang tingin ninyo, you are not covered by it because meron nga kayong ebidensya. That's what you're saying.
yes. I talked with Secretary Lorenzana. He called me up, and he told me that precisely. And they said, no, there's no gag order. As long as we have evidence, by all means, go on. Ang term niya sa akin, we meet them head on. So, steady ka lang, sabi niya, continue what you're doing as long as we have evidence. And I told the secretary, of course, sir, we have evidence. And the leading operation cluster of the National Task Force, LCAP, is concentrating all of this. Incidentally, stratum lang ako, hindi ako member ng LCC.
Pero
Tapos
yun,
nila yun ilalabas.
I was looking at the mission, at the objectives of the task force. Yun namang yung marami naman kayo doon na medyo na-achieve na, yung sa poverty alleviation, yung sa improvement of basic services, yung infrastructure. Pero meron doon part na strategic communication na dito papasok yung nangyayari ngayon. Sa tingin niyo ba sa reaction ng mga tao ngayon, do you feel na you are losing dito sa messaging, sa nangyayari ngayon?
No. In fact, we admit that we are way behind. We are way behind. Kasi in this propaganda war, nauna sila dito. Minsan lang tayo nagkaroon ng ganito sa gobyerno. Minsan lang yung AP nagsasalita. So talagang lunod na lunod tayo dun sa narrative nila. So this time, ngayon nagre-react na yung mga tao. Bakit maraming media personalities, for instance, ang tumitira sa amin? Why? Because for the longest time, na-dominate nila ang media. Infiltrated nila ang lahat ng media outfit natin. Of course, you know that. You know what I'm talking about. So marami dito sa kanila. Nandun na, nakaluklok na sa management level na. So it's only now that your government is really doing something to counter this propaganda of the CPP. Kaya maraming nagre-react. But to say that we're losing this, no. Nagkakaroon ng mas magandang awareness, yung enlightenment, yung ating mga kababayan. In fact, sa social media, ito na ngayon ang maganda. Kasi ngayon, patas na ngayon. Ang social media, patas. Nobody reads the news anymore. So at least merong ibang platform kung saan nila mababasa ang mensahe ng gobyerno na ayaw ipalabas dito sa ibang papers. Yes.
Yeah, General,
That's a pretty broad and dangerous swipe at the media. How can you prove what you're saying, that the media is heavily infiltrated up to the management level? And infiltrated by what? No, sir. And let's be specific about it. Infiltrated by whom,
Yes, but I'm not...
and to what level, and to what effect?
infiltrated by the Communist Party of the Philippines. They started as students, members of the College Editors Guild of the Philippines. I'm not saying all of them, members of the League of Filipino Students, not all of them. And eventually, when they graduate and when they become media practitioners, they join National Union of Journalists, of NUJP. And you should know that. And you know who's telling me this? Former members of CAGP who became CPP cadres, now operating with the Central Committee and now working with us. So they can actually identify who among our media personalities
Maybe,
are members of the
General,
Communist Party.
But you
But
guys
I'm
say
not
you
going
just
to do
tagged
that now.
NUJP. You just
General,
tagged NUJP.
CEGP and UJP, but General, you do understand and you do see that there is a leap in logic there. Even if you say na merong miyembro ng CEGP na naging
Yeah.
NUJP, and nando na ngayon sa kadre, there's a leap in logic there. It doesn't necessarily mean na yung NUJP at CEGP ay plus. Meron din ako mga kilala, hindi naman miyembro nun. Nag-member ng kung ano organization. They were probably members of an automotive club when they were in college. They ended up in the cadres. Doesn't mean that the automotive club is another. But in any case, General, I'm not out to change your mind. Obviously, you have a way of approaching, and you've made up your mind that this is your way, this is your methodology. I want to understand, once you get to this conclusion, because as you said, or this suspicion, as you said, now we're just monitoring these people. And people want to understand, especially in light of the anti-terror law, and yung takot ng mga tao sa anti-terror law, what does that mean? Because we want to have a preview or a sneak peek on how the anti-terror law will now move with generals like you taking full advantage of it, exploiting all the power, and then using it against people that you suspect. You mentioned, for example, now you're monitoring all of these congressmen, all of these organizations. What does monitoring mean? Ano pong ginagawa nyo?
I'll go back to my statement earlier to answer your question. Remember when I said, when I asked you, do we want all these members of Gabriela to be in jail? Do we want all these members of ACT, all these members of Kabataan and Anak Bayan to be in jail? Of course not. Why? Because they're not all terrorists. They're not all parts of the armed group. But many of them, especially the top leadership of these organizations, are card-bearing members of the party and are very much involved in the armed struggle. Sila yung umaakyat na doon sa bundok. Ang tawag doon, tour of duty. Ito na yung nangyari doon kina Alexa Pacalda, itong nangyari kina Joe Lapira. So going back to your question, yes, what we're doing now is to isolate those who are members of the underground amongst this NUJP, amongst the CAGP, amongst LFS, amongst all these organizations. They're not supposed to be,
Yes,
that's well.
Yeah, General, if you don't mind,
What?
like I said, I just want to understand the process, no? Because as you said, you want to isolate maraming mga member. But let's keep in mind, you're starting from the level of the organization. Eh. You're starting on the level of young organization I front. So when you say you want to isolate, how do you do it? How many people do you monitor? Do you monitor all the members and then i-divide nyo sila, ito, dito, ito, papunta dito? I mean, that's what I want to understand because I want to know ano po yung saklaw ng monitoring na sinasabi nyo. How are you implementing it? How are you isolating people if you are not sampling all the members that you suspect to be members of these organizations?
Okay, good question. For instance, Gabriela Youth. I would say in 1,000 members of Gabriela Youth, baka 10 lang dyan ang komunista eh. Baka 10 lang yan ang dapat na kasuhan. That is why we are very, very active in our effort to make people understand the difference between a simple activist, a plain activist, and a terrorist. Okay, the law protects all this activism, dissent, being a critic of the government. Protektado yan ng ating batas. But again, ang sinasabi namin, para ikaw ay ma-involve na doon sa armed struggle, yun ang difference. Now, ito yung gusto namin tutukan. These are the hardcore. And who's helping us in identifying these people? Of course, they're former cadres, they're former colleagues in the armed armed group. So going back to your question, I really cannot answer that because I am only the spokesperson of the National Task Force, and mind you, this is not my idea. This has been vetted in the National Task Force. We talk about this. We talk about how to discuss these issues, and one of those things that we cannot actually discuss here is how we're going to go about doing this. Because for all you know, there could be a better way.
Wina-wiretap nyo na po ba
No,
sila?
no, no. Of course not. No, of course. Hindi natin pwedeng gawin yun. Because
I
precisely,
guess the
the
Well,
law
question,
requires,
going with what you said a while
the
ago.
law requires, let me clarify that one, the law requires that the Court of Appeals issues these
Yes.
clearance to do surveillance. But it is us who is going to request for the courts to allow us to do surveillance, for instance. Yes.
I guess the
Sir, I find
question,
interesting what you said a
General,
while
is
ago na yung Gabriela Youth, sa Gabriela Youth, one organization, sa 10 lang doon ang mga komunista and everybody else is not. So if they had
Yeah.
100 members, you'd only talk about 10%, and that's actually already an inflation. But with that, you've already branded the entire group in the same way you branded NUJP, because
exactly.
according to you,
Yeah.
What?
some members of the CEGP or former members of CEGP said that there are communists in the NUJP. Now you're branding the entire group. Isn't that quite simply red tagging the entire group because of what a few people said or alleged about certain people?
Jun, I really don't know how to say this, but yan talagang itsura nila. Red talaga sila. According to their documents, according to their website, they're really red. I just don't want to say it kasi exactly that's what they're trying to accuse me of red tagging. No, we are not red tagging them.
Pero so you just
They
did.
are
But-
tagging
You
themselves.
just did
Yes,
again.
yes. And Jun,
General, medyo nalilito kami kasi when you
Oh,
say only 10 out of, say, 100 or 1,000 would be isolated, first of all, the question is, what would be your basis for suspecting them as red? No, is it their position in the group which you red tag? I mean, by your own admission, no? That's one.
one.
Number two,
Yep.
how do you allay fears of those who just joined the rallies organized by these groups that they will not be in your list of suspects? Kasi
They will
sir,
not
yun ang
be. They will not be as-
pinaka-nakakatakot sa operations ninyo. Na masama lang sa rally or makita lang na nakikiba ka and, waving their fists, baka mamaya naka-red tag na. And that's what's
Yan yung
happening
inakala
with
nila.
Laika and Catriona, yun yung fear.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. And what are we saying? We've been saying that that's joining these rallies, that's enshrined in the Constitution. That's part of our
Exactly.
democratic space.
Yeah.
That's what we've been saying. To be an activist is okay. I have here my kids. I can tell them, okay, that's all right. You go join those rallies. If you have something to say against the government, go ahead. But by all means, do not shout, okay, join the armed revolution, join the NPA, because that's the main difference. So, bakit anong ikakatakot ng ating mga kabataan na mag-rally? In fact, dyan sa Lucena, meron kami dyan tinatawag na Freedom Park. If you have anything to shout against the government, do it here. Wag ka lang magsisigaw na ibagsak ang gobyerno because that's sedition. Wag ka lang magsisigaw na sumali sa
General,
revolution, sa armed
But if you
revolution.
red tag the group,
if you don't mind that, this is why people are
Yeah.
so afraid of the anti-terror law. Because when a general now puts it that simply, na pagka sumigaw ka ng ibagsak, baka makakasuhan ka na. I'm wagering that at some point, lahat ng kasama natin dito ay sumigaw ng ibagsak nung nasa UP ang mga yan. Itong mga katabi natin
May abogado ba sa atin? Is there a lawyer among the group?
I'm pretty sure. But I'm pretty sure also at a certain point, all of us were dealt with what law was available. Kung mag-vandalize kami at sinulat namin mabuhay ang NPA, sabihin na natin may nag-vandalize. May mga kilala ako nag-vandalize talaga ng sa Espanya. May mga kilala ako kanya, pinirmahan niya. They're now very good professionals. They are part of society. Kung nahuli man sila, they were probably kinasuhan ng vandalism and so on. If they destroyed property, pwede silang kasuhan. Pero nung panahon na yan, that is what allowed the democracy to allow freedom of expression without making it black and white that either you walk this path or you're automatically a terrorist. So ito po yung,
So that's
ito yung takot ng mga tao sa anti-terror law. Kung ganito lang kasimple yung interpretation natin on how easily you can be categorized by a general as a terrorist, you and your organization sitting in the Anti-Terror Council.
I'm sorry, I'm not the only one who's going to declare you a terrorist. No, it's a collective effort. It's a council that's going to determine and recommend for your designation as a terror or a terrorist organization. Sorry, it's not me. And sana may lawyer sa atin. I think Toby, I think you're a lawyer. And
No, I'm not.
yeah,
I'm not.
alam mo yun. So you're not. Okay. I just spoke with the lawyer and he told me, you know what, sir, hindi naman talaga kahit na wala yung anti-terror law, kapag ka ikaw ay nagsisigaw dyan, ibagsak si ganito, that's sedition because these people are duly elected members of but yun nga, balikan ko yung sinabi mo, that's the thing. Pinalagpas natin ito ng sobrang napakatagal na akala natin normal na magsisigaw ka dyan na okay lang na sumali sa hukbong katihan, sa NPA. Hindi pinapansin niya noon. Hinahayaan yan sa UP. So akala natin normal.
Sir, balik tayo
Hinahayaan
dun
yan sa mga kalsada.
Nag-rally dun sa sasama sa
General, ang dami ko kasing kilalang seditious kung ganyan yung ano. I mean,
Pero
and
sir,
Magkaiba ho yung dalawa.
kasi go to the point. I mean, marami akong kilala. Sinabi, pabagsakin si Duterte. Diba? Because their loyalty is to the Philippines and to the Constitution, not to a person. Marami akong kilala. Sinabi, pabagsakin si Aquino. Well, actually, lahat ng presidente gusto nila pabagsak eh. Alam ko kung masakit na ulo sa mga politiko. But it is part of our free expression and it's part of our job to educate the people. But our loyalty is not to people, not even to elected officials. Our loyalty is to our Constitution and to our country. Shouldn't our armed forces be part of that effort to educate people that our democracy is strong enough and confident enough na hindi tayo takot sa mga batang sumisigaw?
Yes, that's what we're doing. In fact, we're telling them we have a very professional armed forces now who understands these things, who understand their rights, their liberties, and that's protected. What's protected by law and what's not. So, yun yung sinasabi natin. They should be more confident with their armed forces. Meron ka bang narinig na human rights abuses for the past 6-7 years? Wala na. What is our trust rating now? 78%. Never before in history na umabot kami dyan sa But etong mga binabanggit nyo, etong mga sinasabi nyo, yan, mga pasista kasi, mga militar na yan, yung mga militar na yan kasi utak pulburo yan. That's precisely the thing that's showing hatred dito sa ating kasundaluhan sa kapulisan. Palagi na lang binabalik doon sa panahon ng martial law. At naririnig nyo yan, nakikita nyo yan. Palagi na lang binabalik doon sa mga abuses ng martial law. But hindi na ganito ang ating armed forces. Hindi na, I don't know, I cannot speak with the police, But my only point is we understand what's legal and what's not allowed by the law. So panahon na ayusin na natin yung mga yung mga bagay-bagay na pinapabayaan natin dati. Tulad nan yung mga ito mga pinag-uusapan natin. Dati hindi natin ito pinapansin. Kaya suddenly, nung pinapansin na sila ng isang gobyerno na nag-declare sa kanila na ito na, tapusin na natin ang insurgency. Let's declare this CPP-NPA as a terrorist organization and head on, harapin na natin itong problema na ito. Ayun na, marami nang nagre-react.
But let me just assure you that even on your propaganda efforts, you're experiencing a pushback from mayors themselves. I mean, you have Cavite Mayor Remulla, and then you have Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, na pinapababa na nga yung mga tarps daw that you put up. No? In short, you're not succeeding even in convincing LGUs, officials of government,
that's your own perception, Lucy. But did you see the comment of Mayor Remulla, Governor Remulla, and you think he understands or he knows what I did and what I didn't do? Do you think he understands my statement Alam mo, yung bati ko sa akin, linagay niyo doon. Ayan, mga tarpaulin na linagay ni Parlade. Who am I to put those tarpaulins? And he is accusing me of that. Yan si Parlade na rinedtag yung mga kababaihan. Sino ba siya? Sabi niya. Ito yung mga bagay na sinabi ko na hindi ko kagagawan. I did not red tag those celebrities.
So
Ang
hindi
nag-red
yun
tag sa
inyo.
kanila yung si it's Becker ang nag-red tag sa kanya. I know she's I don't know, he or she is a DDS member and I don't care. But ang sinasabi ko doon, unfair doon kay Liza Soberano na linalagyan nila ng mga kawit ng komunista yung mukha, gusto na i-boycott yung mga programa ng artista. Fair naman kasi sinasabi nila doon komunista ito dahil kasama
Yes,
si
General,
Gabriela. So let me just finish this because this all started with this statement of mine, which if you're only going to read, there's nothing wrong with that interpretation kasi nila ito. So I came to the rescue of this Liza Soberano kasi sabi ko nga unfair sa kanya, hindi naiintindihan ni pa ng mga buzzers na hindi maging member or mag-participate ka sa ganito activity doesn't make you a communist, doesn't make you an NPA, but continued association with this group, chances are will lead
But
you
even that is
to the
backfiring.
fate.
Hmm.
Sorry.
But even
General,
that is
Kasi tinitwist
backfiring.
nila. Kasi tinitwist nila. Lahat ng sabihin ko, depende yan sa agenda ng bumabatikos, lahat yan pwede lang i-twist. In fact, can you imagine, gusto na nilang mag-sorry ako doon sa Liza. Bakit ako mag-sorry? Ano, meron ba akong inapi? Talagang bang tinreten ko ang pamilya Soberano? Bakit nagti-thank you sa amin yung abogado ni Liza Soberano ng family niya? Kasi yung sinasabi nilang threat, interpretasyon nila yan. Kasi ang nasa isip nila, ayan, si Parlade, mahilig mag-red tag. Lahat ng nag-red tag, si Parlade. Lahat ng tarpaulin na nakita dyan sa Maynila, si Parlade. Ayan, gusto nila akong gibain. That's the thing. So, ina-assume nila lahat ito ay kagagawan ko. So, sabi ko, Gob, ano ka ba? Ano ka? Nag-iisip ka ba? Nabasa mo ba? Basa mo ba yung statement ko? Did you see any threat there? O baka binulungan ka lang ni Mayor Isko Moreno, o baka binulungan ka lang ni Saturo Campo, o baka binulungan ka lang ni Lisa Masa, o baka binulungan ka lang ng mga kaalyado mo na members nitong Kamatayan Bloc.
But General, if you were quoted correctly, this is what you said. This is what you said to Liza Soberano. If you do not abdicate from the group, sabi niyo, abdicate from the group. If you don't, you will suffer the same fate as Josephine and Lapira. So it does sound to me like parang sabi sa kanya, if you continue to support Gabriela, you will die like Lapira of UP Manila.
No. She's not supporting Gabriela. I did not say that. In fact, meron akong hashtag doon na dinilit nila. Nakalagay, meron akong hashtag doon. So original statement ko, if you'll only check, nakalagay doon, hashtag defend Liza.
Yes, sir. Hashtag aside, but did you say this statement?
Okay, what does it mean? Defend. Why am I defending Liza?
Sir, that's a hashtag. I'm asking you about the statement that was attributed to you by all the media outlets. Abdicate from the group. If you don't, you will suffer the same fate as Josephine and Lapira. This I think was a statement.
Yes, it only means June. Ang ibig sabihin lang, ibig lang sabihin yun, you dissociate yourself from that organization. You dissociate yourself from that organization because if you don't, you will suffer the same fate as these girls who were killed in many encounters with the government. So ganun lang kasi yun.
General,
in other words, ako ay nag-advise. I'm not threatening. Tulad nung sinasabi ng NDRRMC, babala, may bagyong parating. Lumikas kayo dyan sa tabing dagat, huwag kayong papalaot. It's not a threat. It's a warning na nanggagaling sa isang nakakaintindi kung ano itong
General,
itong ginagawa nito ng mga Gabriela na ito.
General, if you don't mind, maybe this is something that puts us in the same on the same footing tayo, no? Kami as media, kayo po as spokesperson. We're all trying to be communicators here. But that's precisely the thing. Kanina sabi ni General Lorenzana, ituloy mo lang as long as meron kang ebidensya. But actually, I was reading the quote. Ang sinabi ni Secretary Lorenzana, huwag kang magsasalita kung walang ebidensya. Which is totally different things could be the same thing. But here's the point. As communicators, and as gaya nga po ng sinasabi nyo, na either nami-misinterpret kayo o sinasadyang i-twist, and that twisting of words is enough to threaten the lives and liberty of innocent people, of innocent Filipinos. Won't you recognize that that is what we are afraid of with red tagging? That words carry weight, especially coming from a general, especially coming from a public officer. We should be careful with our words precisely because, as you are learning now, these words can turn people against other people.
Okay. But if that's what's going to take to isolate those who don't believe in violence, then I will say it again and again and again. If that's what's going to take, in order for people, for these children to understand that joining this armed group, that joining this violent underground hiding under these legal front organizations will endanger yourselves, then we are going to say it again and again and again. Because
well
I'm
taken.
also scared. I'm scared. I'm scared also of my children. If this thing goes on, and napakagaling nila, napakatamis ng kanilang mga dila, and this thing goes on, at wala na tayong ibang magkaroon tayo ng isang presidente na hindi na desididong tapusin itong insurgency na ito,
General,
kawawa naman ang ating mga anak.
General, well taken. And I think your point, everybody understands what you're saying. Kung makakasalba ako ng mga buhay sa ginagawa ko, paninindigan ko. But then, this is what people are saying. Panindigan nyo rin yung collateral damage ng mga salita nyo. Because you've acknowledged that when words are recklessly used without evidence, other people, kahit hindi po kayo, but other people can seize upon that from all sides and result in injury to other people and threats to other people. So I understand, it's well taken, sir, your sentiment na if this can save lives, I will do it. But will you take accountability as well for the collateral damage of your words?
No, because I know exactly how the Communist Party operates. Remember Plaza Miranda? Pinasabog niya ang Plaza Miranda para sisihin ang Marcos government. Remember the killings in Sagay, in Bacolod? 20 of them were killed by Juros. Si James Durimon, Akad Juros, 14 years old, nung na-recruit ng NPA, Sparrow. Ayun, nag-surrender siya. 28 years old niya. Sabi niya, sir, 21 na yung napatay ko sa Negros. At dun ko hindi maintindihan. Nung nakita ko ang litrato ng isang pinatay ko, isang ordinaryong aktivistang magsasaka. Ang sinabi sa akin, ito, patayin mo kasi intel agent ito. Yung pala, doon niya naintindihan, ay yung mga pinagpapatay sa kanya ay mga taong ordinaryong aktivista lang at ginawa yon para masisi ang gobyerno, especially at the time na parating dito UN Rapporteur on Human Rights. You see, kagagawan ito ng NPA. I hope you have read or seen the video of Father Balueg when he claimed that they would kill communities near an ambush area in Abra so that people in the community will blame the government for killing them because of harboring NPAs in the community that allowed them to be ambushed. So, anong sinasabi natin dito? Diyan magaling ang CPP. Diyan napakagaling ang NPA. And we have proof that they've been doing this. Until now, they're planning to do these things. So, will I be accountable for that? No, of course not. But I'll be consistent in my statement. Kung kinakailangan gawin natin ito, and I hope other people will do that, will do the same as what I'm doing. Sana mas magaling lang sila na mag-explain tulad sa akin. Hindi I'm sorry, na mas magaling kaysa sa akin at siguro mga babae rin o siguro mga dating mga naging miyembro ng organisasyon nila, and this is what we're going to do, by the way. Ihaharap na namin sila para sila mismo ang nagsasalita on our behalf, on behalf of the National Task Force. Baka mas effective pa rin yun. But let me just assure you that itong ginagawa namin, pinag-uusapan ito, it's a collective decision to do this. At yung sinasabi nyo na reaction ito ng grupo na ganito, do you know that there could be other good responses to what I'm doing? Ang dami ko. Binabasa ko yung mga post ng mga pabor doon sa ating ginagawa. Sir, pagpatuloy nyo lang po. Maganda po yung ginagawa nyo. What about this? Nobody is telling us about this positive responses from netizens. So, paano natin 'to gagawin? Magbilangan tayo kung sino yung sino ang pabor dito sa ginagawa natin at hindi pabor? Possibly, pwede 'yun. Gawin natin 'yun.
Okay.
Okay. Well, General Antonio Parlade,
Salamat.
spokesman ng NTF-LCAC at commander ng Southern Luzon Command. Sir, maraming salamat po for joining us tonight.
Thank you,
Maraming
sir.
salamat.
Maraming salamat po. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Oy,
We
correct ko
would-
lang ha. I called Cavite Governor.
Mayor.
Mayor. Sorry, Gov.
Anyway, kinrek din naman niya eh. Okay, we'll just go into break, so please stay with us.
Welcome back to the Chiefs. We're now in the final stage of our conversation. And now we'd like to welcome Ms. Emmi de Jesus. She's the former Congress representative of Gabriela Women's Party List. Good evening, Ms. de Jesus.
Hi, good evening po.
Welcome to the
ito
Chief.
Good evening, ma'am.
Before,
Good evening po.
hi, good evening. Before anything else,
You listen to
big-
General Parlade, no?
yeah, hindi nga ako makahinga eh. Before anything else, I just would,
Tatanong ko
gusto
lang,
lang-
sinabi
Hindi.
kasi
may I first register my condemnation of his rabid calling sa mga anti-progressive. Biruin mong for a person of office, tatawagin niya yung makabayan ng kamatayan black. I think, tapos yung pagsasabi ng Gabriela na parang, yung mga Gabriela na ito, I think it speaks of his person, ganun siya karabid na anti-progressive sa lahat ng progressive groups, tingin niya ay red or left, no? Kahit media nga, silangkot na niya eh. Anyway, sorry, hindi na lang ang oras.
tatanong ko po, kasi sabi niya, baka daw mga 10 lang na member ng Gabriela ang actually ang tatargetin kung sakasakali nung task force, and sabi niya they want to isolate the radicals from yung mga genuine. He wants to make to differentiate between the activists and yun nga yung radicalized members saka yung underground. Yun daw yung sinasabi niya na meron daw duplicity in your group, na meron daw underground component. And they want to isolate that from the activists. Ano po yung masasabi niyo ron?
Actually, inano na niya yan eh, bad mouthing na ang ginawa niya and red tagging na yon as a matter of fact. Napakasama at napakabastos nung ganoong presentation na para bang ang first premise Andiyan ang Gabriela, na nasa front lang yan, nasa likod niyan, yung mga kinocommand. Alam mo, ako founding member ako ng Gabriela. I was 30 years old, no? 66 years old na ako ngayon. At ako ay naging kinatawan ng Gabriela Women's Party. Nagkaroon ako ng poder sa isang institusyon na kinikilala ng ating gobyerno, no? Congresswoman, gumagawa ng batas. Ako, sa akin ang bottom line record. Tingnan nyo ano ang nagawa na. Tingnan nyo kung ano yung pinagsasasabi nila na ang Gabriela ay nanlalansi o nanloloko lamang. Yung record namin ang gawin nilang batayan at wag yung kung ano-ano lang na napaka-presumptuous, napaka-sweeping at nakakatakot para doon sa mga walang kinalaman at malalagay tayo, ma-endanger talaga. Halimbawa yung si Katrina at saka si Angel, matagal na yan Gabriela, hindi lang yan ngayon nagsalita, matagal na yan. Marami pang artista na lumapit sa Gabriela, maraming artista na humingi ng tulong sa Gabriela. Kaya parang nakakakilabot na at this point in time, pagka ikaw ay nagsalita laban sa gobyerno o nag-support ka, no, doon sa pagtutulak ng rights and welfare, ano ka na?
Ma'am, pero what we understand from what you were saying kanina was that hindi pa matatapos 'to at mukhang mag-escalate pa ito. Sa mga binitawan niyo salita kanina, talagang mag-escalate pa ito eh. Mukhang iaakit pa nila eh. My question is, ano ang balak ninyo? Anong balak ng mga...
Actually magandang i-question nga eh. Kasi talaga ang orientation ng NTF-ELCAC, nabanggit kanina ni Ami, no? Poverty alleviation para tumulong. And I think at this point, wala pang nararamdaman ang mamamayan. And in fact, doon sa budget na proposed, no, na ang laki-laki ng budget nila, ano ang pinaggagawa nila? Na tutugon? Ako ang tingin ko, mag-ano na lang muna tayo eh. At this point, pwede naman tayong mag-tit for tat. Sige, record for record. Ano ba ang ginawa ng Gabriela na takot ka? Sumigaw kami ng panahon ni Marcos, 1984 nabuo ang Gabriela eh. Andiyan si Ramos. Sumigaw kami, palayasin ang US bases. Mali ba yun? Ito ba ay mangangahulugan na ang kababaihan ay hindi dapat magsalita ng issue ng bayan? Kaya nung lumaho kami sa Kongreso, seryoso kami doon sa babae, bata, bayan. Kasi walang issue ng bayan na hindi concern ang babae at walang issue ng kababaihan na hindi dapat concern ang bayan. Kaya nga yung issue kaya nagsalita si Lisa dahil threatened siya ng rape. Can you imagine sa isang lipunan na ang rape ay parang ginagawang laro? Issue yan ng bayan, issue yan ng kababaihan. At dapat nandyan ang Gabriela, nandyan ang iba't ibang organisasyon ng mamamayan na nagsasalita. At sasabihin kagad nila, komunista, nag-espouse ng violence. Saan ang violence doon?
Ma'am, let's give him the benefit of the doubt for the moment. Is it possible na bagamat, yun na nga, no, reporter na po ako nung nag-umpisa sa Gabriela.
Oo, nakailang interview na ako sa iyo eh.
Opo. Is it possible though na na-infiltrate kayo? Kasi yun ang salitang ginamit niya, no? Na yung mga, pati nga kaming media, hindi naman kami komunista, no? Pero sinasabi nga niya na na-infiltrate na rin ang ranks. Maaari nang nangyayari yun. Is it possible na nangyayari rin sa Gabriela?
Hindi. Ang organization kasi, gumagawa yan ng program of action. Doon tayo magbatay. Ano ba ang program of action ng Gabriela for the past 35 years? Ito yung alliance at saka yung Gabriela Women's Party, which has been in Congress for 20 years, ano ang ginawa nito na nag-espouse ng violence? Yung programa namin, malinaw eh. Nung ako nakaupo sa Kongreso, ultimong issue ng VAT. Sinulong ko yan. Ito ba ay nag-espouse ng violence? Ikaw ba ay... Ako ang tingin ko nga, nasa... Diversion ito ng isang gobyerno gobyerno na talagang hindi na nila kasi ang majority alam ko nararamdaman talaga gutom, kawalan ng
Mm.
trabaho. Yan yung
Mm.
yan yung issue. Kaya ang tingin ko this is a very, very
Mm.
good diversion for them, ano? Kasi yung current
Ang sa
economic
kanila
and
naman,
social realities
ang sa kanila naman dun, ma'am,
Oo.
ine-exploit yon ng mga
Ayun,
komunista
alam
para
mo,
nga, lalo na yung mga Gabriela youth, yung
oo,
mga
lumabas
bata raw
Oo,
ang
lumabas ka lang
target.
oo, para namang wala tayong data 'no, lumabas ka nga ako nga nandito sa bahay mula nung lockdown, ilan yung namamalimos dito, ilan yung naglalako na talagang dahil nawalan ng kabuhayan, ilan yung mga drivers na nagsasabing puwede po bang humingi na lang ng tulong sa inyo dahil sa ganito, ilan yung mga namatay dahil hindi nakapagpa-ospital. Ang tingin ko this is a very good diversion for a government
Yeah.
na talagang militarista at
Mm.
ang armas kasi nila pananakot eh. Kasi ako, mag-base tayo sa programa ng Gabriela, mag-base tayo sa programa ng Gabriela Women's Party. At nakita nyo naman, ako pag nakipagdebate ako talaga sa Kongreso, pag ako nagsasabi na nga, ang laging bottom line ko, kanino ito naglilingkod.
Ma'am,
Kanino
maliban po,
Oo.
ma'am, beyond Gabriela, beyond
Oo.
LCAC, syempre
Oo.
ang isa ring tinitingnan dito, whether it's diversion or not, is yung anti-terror law. No, para
Ayan.
ngayon we're starting to get an idea of not only what are the ano ba yung mga nakakuloob sa anti-terror law, nakikita rin natin yung mga personalidad na mag-i-implement nito. Ano po yung assessment niyo just based on these past few days and this particular episode with Gabriela? Ay, ano pong insights nyo? I mean, alam natin na may pangamba na kayo dati pa. People have been protesting dati pa. But now that it's here and you're getting sort of a peek and a taste of what is coming with the anti-terror law and how it will be wielded, what are your additional insights?
Actually, may effort pa rin naman. Halimbawa, ang Makabayan at saka yung Gabriela at saka yung 20 plus na organizations, nag-file pa naman sa Supreme Court. Pero, siyempre, ano pa yan, process na palagay namin kung talagang gugustuhin nila, talaga namang ipapasa nila, no? Ang democracy kasi, naka-base kasi yung democratic right doon sa totoong realidad ng tao eh. Hindi mo mapipigil ang nagugutom na mag-organize eh. Kami, mga nanay namin sa community, sasabihin nila naghahalaman kami, nagaganyan kami, pero gutom pa rin kami. Ano ba ginagawa ng gobyernong ito? Nagsasalita sila, o sige, sama-sama tayo, mag-organize tayo. Anong mali doon? Anong masama doon? Kaya tingin ko, yung threat, mananatili talagang pananakot yun. At kung gagawa sila, ma-expose sila eh. Sila ang ma-expose na anti-people talaga yung ginagawa nila dahil kapos yung ibinibigay nila para sa mamamayan na humihingi na talaga ng pagbabago.
In any case, ma'am, I think you might expect na hihingin ng Anti-Terror Council na i-designate yung mga grupo under Makabayan as terrorist organizations. I mean, you're looking at nine-member council of which 8 members are members of the cabinet din eh. So parang given na ho yun na ma-designate po yung Makabayan Bloc as a terrorist group by the ATC. What do you plan to do with that? How do you plan to counter it? And secondly, how do you plan to counter their potential appeal to the Court of Appeals to have it prescribed as well?
Siyempre parang ang level kasi dyan, isang legal battle, kaya sa korte yan, sa Supreme Court. Tapos yung battle sa publiko, yung papapakita ng katumpakan na bakit dapat manatili ang mga progresibong party list, bakit dapat na itong ginagawa nila ay talagang anti-people, anti-women, no? Kaya tingin ko, yung sa two-prong battles na yan, we will engage. Kaya lang dahil nga militarista sila alam mo naman yung paggamit nila sa kapulisan. Ang PNP ngayon, iba na orientation eh. Yung ginagawa nila, yung mga hindi lang red baiting pala, yung nagpa-plant ng mga baril, ng ebidensya, pumapatay. Nakakakilabot, we are in a situation na talagang ang panakot nila ay sila yung violent eh.
Pero
Ma'am,
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 kasi medyo matagal-tagal pa yung kung sakali yung prescription ng Court of Appeals
Oo
kasi
nga,
proseso yun eh.
oo.
Pero yung designation by the Anti-Terror Council, that can be done almost immediately, in which case baka ma-freeze yung mga assets ng mga grupo ninyo. That's the
Well,
potential that's the potential danger immediately.
okay. Oo, ano naman 'yan, palagay ko yung engagement naman namin diyan, ready for all the consequences. Sabi ko nga may legal battle. How can we possibly how can we possibly engage? At palagay ko naman marami tayong mga lawyers na pwede ring tumulong sa makabayan. Nasasabihin na naman nila mga aktivista ay mga 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 komunista pagka tumulong yung mga lawyers.
sundan ko lang ma'am yung tanong ni Lucci, sabi kasi yung infiltration. Sabi ni General Parlade, meron daw kayong underground component called makibaka. So, hindi totoo yan, ma'am?
Alam mo, matagal na yan eh. Ang makibaka, alam ko. Nasa history yan. Alam mo, nababasa naman niya siguro sa history yan. Nasa history talaga, nung panahon ng martial law. At binasa yan. Kaya nga, gusto kong inaaral yan eh. Ano yung nasaan ng women's movement ngayon. During the time of martial law, na ang makibaka kasi dati legal organization yan. Kaya nung dineclare silang illegal, umalis yung mga kababaihan at illegal na ang makibaka. Pero historically, may basis bakit ang mga kababaihan ng panahon ni Marcos ay nag-organize din hanggang dineclare silang illegal. At yung sinasabi nilang mayroong makibaka dyan, ewan ko kung saan niya nakukuha yung yung mga ganyang information o kung doon sa kanyang mga itinatagong mga sabi niya magwi-witness. Ako, for 35 years, nasabi ko nga, to be a Gabriela is a way of life. Hindi ito trabaho, hindi ito, kundi naniniwala ako doon sa pagsusulong talaga. At ang Gabriela dapat talaga nag-i-exist pa habang nandyan ang mga issues, habang nandyan ang reasons bakit dapat nagsasalita ang kababaihan. Gabriela should stay. And Gabriela Women's Party List and all the Makabayan Party List should be part of the parliamentary struggle kasi alam nyo naman kung sino bumubuo ng Congress, no? Yung mga mayayaman, mga elitista, at least marami naman din dyan na pro-people. Pero siguro yung record din eh ng para kanino talaga. I think we should fight for the retention ng mga progressive party list, including progressive congressmen. Kahit na yung mga regional district congs, marami naman dyan na naniniwala sa makabayan.
Okay,
Alright.
former Congresswoman, former Gabriela Party List Congresswoman Emmi de Jesus. Ma'am, maraming salamat po for joining us.
Salamat,
Thank you,
Ed.
ma'am.
Salamat, Ami.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Well, we've gone way too overtime, so
Yes.
it's time to say goodbye.
Ah,
That will be all for this.
Pagbabati kasi si Robby eh. Pagbabati eh.
Abogado.
Oo nga.
Dami ko lang.
Attorney.
Hindi pa abogado. Hindi papasa ang abogado.
Okay, babay na tayo. Sige.
okay na.
That's
Sige na,
it
June.
for the
June.
Monday edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. I'm Edling of One News.
I'm Mami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucci Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News.